and welcome back to Aardweg with. Today I'm joined by Stacey van den Aardweg. And yes, I've almost certainly butchered that surname, but she's kindly letting me get away with it. Sorry, Stacey. So what can I tell you about Stacey? She's an ex-Amazon powerhouse who went from leading at one of the world's biggest companies to advising boards, scaling businesses, and now building her own ventures. These days, Stacey is the founder of Spark, an AI-powered co-founder in your pocket that helps people turn ideas into real businesses. And just casually, she's also running a mysterious stealth AI startup, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. I first met Stacey at Amazon and was struck straight away by her confidence, her focus, and the way she always seemed to deliver at such a high standard. She's a total boss babe and also refreshingly honest about the messy human side of ambition. In our conversation, we get into everything from parenting and leadership to taking smart risks, and why change has been the one constant in her career and her personal life. Stacey's energy and openness really shine through, and I hope you love this episode as much as I do. Let's get into it. Stacey, you've written about real growth, and you talk about how real growth comes from change. When you reflect on your personal and your professional journey, what's one thing that you would say has completely reshaped the way that you are?
So I think for me, it's not just one thing. It's been a pattern of seeking out change that's really helped to build a habit, which has made growth an imperative. And I now think that I am rather addicted to it, which probably explains a little bit about my choices in terms of career. And I think what it is I was born in South Africa and I moved to the UK when I was 16, and I had not expected the level of change that I would experience in that process. So it was more culturally different. The language was even more different than I thought. And it meant I had to really restart everything, build a new identity and a new brand, build new relationships, build new ways of working and navigating a new society. And I also didn't have legacy. I didn't have a network. I didn't have family relationships in this country. And it was a really great opportunity for me to use a blank sheet of paper and build some new muscles. And since then, I've got rather used to that. And so I think when I look at how my career's evolved, and I think I've changed career, wholesale career, what I do, and industry about 4 or 5 times now. And it's all working with the same muscles and making those stronger. How do I map out and building knowledge and an understanding of what the rule book is in this new space? Mm-hmm. How do I then establish credibility by refining my brand, building relationships, and expressing the knowledge that I have and using the fungible skills that I've built to deliver impact in that new space? And from there, how do I help to innovate and grow other people at the same time? Mm-hmm. And so I tried that in banking. It probably wasn't the best industry for me to start in terms of a match between who I am, what I can do, and what my values are. But I did learn a whole load. And then since then, I moved into management consulting. So a bit of a rinse, repeat, new skills, new environment, new relationships, new impact. I was a CEO at 28, which was a very brave new world for me. I had to learn really quickly. I failed a lot. And in that process, again, built some more of those muscles of I feel out of my depth. How am I going to approach this? What is the structured solution to put in place? Where do I need to ask for help? What does a good team look like to give me leverage and support? And then where do I really want to go with this? What are my goals and milestones? And how do I articulate the broader vision of a business to a team and get them on board as well? And subsequently, I think I've got better at doing that faster in the new environments that I've been in. So at Amazon, I think that learning curve gets much steeper and you climb it much more quickly. And some of that you do independently and some of that you have support for. Mm-hmm. And I did that probably 2 or 3 times in the 8 years at Amazon with different roles and different environments. And now this brave new world of startup, which is on the total opposite end of the spectrum, not rather than scale, it's very small, but actually the ambiguity that comes with it is far broader. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to use the same approach, same recipe, different environment, and it is working, but the feedback mechanism looks different. So the signals I look for are different. And sometimes that means that I'll have a week where I get no signals and I panic and I think, what am I doing? And then I go back to, the recipe again. What are my goals? Mm-hmm. What are my milestones? How am I tracking against that? What does that mean for what I do next week? And where I seek the signals of this is going in the right direction. And what do I need to iterate on? How do I change myself,
Hmm.
the way I approach people, the conversations that I'm having, and the preparation I do ahead of those conversations so that I'm getting what I need and I'm giving other people what they need at the same time.
Yeah, and it's one of those where you don't know what you don't know, right? And when you think about, so you wear multiple hats: a parent, you were a leader, you were a CEO at a young age, and now you're a founder. Who would you say you are at your core? And is there a thread that ties it all together?
Ooh. Um, I think I am a curious adventurer at my core, and I take inspiration from what brings me the most joy at home and then how that has played out in my professional life. So, as a parent, I have two young sons. Boys are brilliant. Girls are brilliant too, but I'm very grateful for my pair. And we spend a lot of time outdoors. We surf, we hike. They're young, and we've really invested in making sure that they have the tools and skills that they need to be out in all weathers. I think some of it is my heritage, but my husband's
Hmm.
English, and I think he shares that passion for the outdoors and for action and activity. And so when I look at what I've done in a corporate setting, I think it's always been building relationships through sport, alongside what I do at work, whether that's team event days. The last big one that I ran as a reward for my team was an old school sports day, egg and spoon races and three-legged races. And I
Oh.
think it's where you really see people showing up authentically when they can have fun and they can collaborate in an environment that is away from work and build skills that then they take back into their work
Hmm.
environment. And so that spirit of adventure, I think, then has led into ambiguity, unknown, taking on different challenges. But it's also been a really great way of building a network. So I'm now in the space where I'm meeting new founders. And what surprises me is that the contributions I've made on LinkedIn, which is a new space, I'm learning there too, are things that do resonate with them as well. I met someone the other day and he is super. He's really going places. He's got a 2 million ARR business building in the tech space. Main partner is Shopify. And we spent the first 10 minutes talking about triathlon, which I used to do when I was his age. And he's doing actively. And when you realize that you're similar to someone outside of work, I think it really helps to then build that collaboration
Hmm.
and the professional partnerships that you have at work as well.
And I like that. I love the curious adventure piece. And actually, I know we've spoken before, and from your name, I had a feeling that you had a South African background, but I never asked. I lived in South Africa in the mid-90s. We were in Johannesburg.
Ah,
So where in South
okay.
Africa were you?
I was born in Pretoria and
Ah,
spent a
gotcha.
very brief moment in Johannesburg, probably about a year and a half when I was very little, and then
Yeah.
grew up in Cape Town. Cape Town is
Oh,
home.
amazing. Amazing. I thought so because you have a twinge of an accent. I was like, I wonder if she's from South Africa. I'm gonna have to ask her, and then I completely forgot. So going back, you talk a lot about juggling of the early parenting years, when you were, doing a really big job at a really big tech company at Amazon, and you had young kids. What does life feel like for you now as a founder, running at your own pace and your own time, to when you were a director in one of the biggest companies in the world?
Still pretty mad, but different mad. I think that being your own boss is really liberating in some ways, and in other ways, it's incredibly pressurizing because nothing moves unless you move. And I miss many things about corporate life and about Amazon. It's a fantastic company doing really incredible things. And I had a really wonderful career there. I was super grateful for my team and leadership and what I learned and what I got to do. Things that I miss. I really miss leverage. I miss having a team of smart, motivated people who are engaged on a similar mission to you, where you've got a bunch of norms and you can trust that things will continue to move, even if you remove yourself, which is a scary thing to admit when you're a leader, that if I wasn't there, things would continue. But I take it on faith that a lot of that is to do with the mechanisms and the skills and the ethos and values and culture that you build within a team.
Mhm.
So I do miss that. I also miss playbooks sometimes. I'm a big fan of playbook, and I think that it really does support with scaling, which is what I did a lot of operating at scale. And now I'm in an environment that's highly ambiguous, where my time is finite, my energy is finite, and I need to be really thoughtful about where I place it. The challenge is sometimes you don't know what the outcome of something will be, where before it was probably a bit more predictable. We used to talk about inputs equals outputs. If I continue to
Mm-hmm.
do this, I know it will result in this. I may need to flex a bit on the how, but that I can have confidence in. In the absence of a playbook, I can push on something and realize that I may have spent 2 days in the wrong place. And that is expensive as a mistake. The flip side is because I'm my own boss, I can set my own deadlines. And if I miss a deadline, that's okay. And I can reevaluate, I can iterate, and I can think about doing something differently. So there's this weird balance of control and
Mm-hmm.
autonomy versus ambiguity that I'm currently struggling with. The other piece is about feedback cycles. So I was very used to Amazon standardized weekly business reviews, things that are incredibly powerful. It now turns out on reflection. I think I knew it then. I know it even more now. They are also quite painful for teams. There was it is a forcing function to review and deeply understand a business and think about what progress looks like and what good looks like in the future. And I think that in this new space where I am, some of those feedback mechanisms aren't yet there, or they take a little bit longer. So I can spend a whole week doing something and not get a signal. And then I can spend another week where I get 5 signals at once. And that can be very disconcerting. Positive in many ways when you have an epic week,
Mm-hmm.
really, really challenging to maintain confidence and motivation when you have a difficult week. And so these are things that I'm still grappling with. But what has been really helpful is I've been at this now for about 3 months in a kind of different level of intensity over time. And I'm starting to see the positive signals of persevering, being patient, being consistent on the inputs.
Mm-hmm.
And those feedback cycles do start coming.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the reward looks different. Sometimes it's smaller and you need to be grateful for the wins. But all of these things I am learning.
Amazing. And dialing back to Amazon, so you scaled quite a global business, across Europe to an extraordinary level. I remember working alongside some of your team. What stood out the most for you in that experience?
I think it was a really incredible opportunity to learn from lots of different teams and types of people. I worked with teams in China and they operate very differently. Their priorities are different. What they take as an important signal is much more data-based, for example, than what I think we do
Mm-hmm.
in Europe. The way that they contract and build relationship is different. So I learned loads from those relationships. I really, really loved that business and that opportunity. I learned a lot from getting to work with thousands of sellers that sell all over the world, these businesses that have got really unique products and their own unique culture and way of working and message for customers and way that they deploy that in their products. And so the learning scope was huge. The context shifting was brilliant. This ability to wear loads of different hats at different times. And while it's sometimes exhausting, there was an energy in it that I really thrived on. And this ability to be in a performance review for my team for an hour and a half, and then be on a call about how you're going to drive a business and amplify its growth from double digits to bigger double digits. And then you sit and have a
Mm-hmm.
roadmap review on some new tech product that you're building, all within one day. That was a real privilege. I think in terms of how to manage a business like that, there were a few things that really, really mattered to me. They were I put them in 3 buckets. So one was how you show up as a leader. So leading with authenticity and empathy has been my priority, particularly when leading large teams and working with teams that are globally distributed. And what I mean by that is my assessment is that people follow leaders who are real, who care, who articulate a clear vision and explain each individual person's part in achieving that vision, and who build trust with their teams and with their partners. And the second piece for me is around structured problem solving that really starts with the customer. So thinking about how do we really understand deeply what our customer problem is and what their needs are, and what are the data points and the feedback that we need from them to validate that. And then how do you really listen to the teams that are working with those customers day in, day out and assimilate their sense of what is going on? What are
Mm-hmm.
your mechanisms for collecting that evidence too? And asking why is a really helpful way of gathering that information in order to inform the problem solving that you then do afterwards. And then the last piece is around leverage and scaling. So you have to build the
Mm-hmm.
right team. You need to design an org deliberately. You need to hire for skills, the what, and the leadership and culture, the how. And then you need to foster a culture of collaboration, ownership, problem solving and positivity. People coming together with a common goal. And even when there is tough stuff in the way that you work, where you work, what the stresses are, there is a mutual sense of respect and focus on delivering one specific thing well. And the last piece is on mechanisms, which Amazon, I think, is amazing at. And it's something that when I now talk to clients about, they really want to find a way to bottle that, to learn from it, and to take some of that goodness and implement it in their own businesses. And these are small clients, early startups, and then some of them are big listed companies that I work with. And when I talk about mechanisms, it's about using strong systems and processes to track performance, to spot opportunities, to, as a group, articulate where are the defects, how are we going to take action to fix it, who's responsible for that. A framing that I really like is who will do what by when. Often you can sit in a meeting, you can talk about a lot of things, and you can leave, and suddenly you think, oh gosh, who is going to do this? Yeah. And so really, really pinning down who will do what by when makes a big difference. And I think those mechanisms and being consistent at undertaking them, at following a rigorous process of preparation, data review, and conversation about what you see in the data is what drives consistent progress in a business.
And that's such a great way to frame it, actually, when you think about it. And actually, you can apply it to anything, right? A big business, big corporation, your own startups, advising clients. One of the things I actually read recently that you'd written about an uncomfortable truth, which I love that series, by the way, so please continue with it. You spoke about how we can't have it all without costs. How has that shown up in your career decisions, be it at Amazon or KPMG, or the big firms that you worked in, or what you're doing now, which is a different world almost?
So I think that it has become more of a conversation in my head and with peers and friends since having children and navigating corporate life. I think before there were fewer responsibilities, therefore less to juggle, therefore less that could be compromised. And effectively there was just more liquidity in the system, more energy and time to hand out, and fewer people who would get hurt if they didn't get a portion of it. And it really is the Amazon stage of, I had two kids while I was at Amazon in the 8 years I was there, 2 mat leaves, 2 pregnancies, 2 lots of different things, right? And all of that adds up on top of trying to deliver for a company that really is very ambitious and continues to move even if you are not there. And I think that I've learned a few things. The first is that when you have the privilege of leading, a lot of people look at you and what they see is work Stacey. And they assume that because work Stacey showed up on the day looking vaguely put together, that it's possible to do all of these things without any trade-offs. And I came to feel towards the end of my time at Amazon where I was finding it more difficult to do the juggle and still keep myself whole, that I needed to start telling people that having it all wasn't easy for me. And I think other people choose different things, but I feel very strongly that it's not sustainable to have it all, and that pursuing the myth and helping others to continue to believe in it is not necessarily healthy, particularly in a macroeconomic context where a lot of the other pressure valves that people may have had to support having it all are no longer as attainable. Whether that's the childcare that is very, very expensive these days, whether it's progression at work that gives you a little bit more purchasing power. Progression rates have slowed down, so purchasing power is more limited. Dual career families are something that I think our generation is grappling with where perhaps they weren't before. And that also puts other pressures on relationship dynamics and household routines too. The great news is lots of people are trying to solve these problems, which is brilliant. I've just invested in a business called Molo, and they're doing just that. They're trying to create a chief of staff for your house.
Oh, wow.
And I am all on board for being a customer if and when Molo releases their next product. But I think that where I've seen the pressure most is on female leaders and working parents, where they're trying to balance big careers with family life. And that often leads to fractured relationships, health issues, burnout, often that we are not allowed to talk about. And I think pretending that you can have it all sets a really unfair benchmark for success. And so when I think about these trade-offs, that's what I wrote about. It's that your time and your energy are finite. but there are endless ways that you can spend them, including doom scrolling, right? So the
Yeah.
competition for this time and energy is much more prevalent, and in some ways we have less of it. And so I think that really what it is about thinking about where you place this time and energy. And the lens that I apply is acute versus chronic stretch. So acute
Hmm.
stretch is it's a short, intense push, and it can be healthy. And I saw great examples of this in the teams that I led. People saying, I want to run a marathon, but I've also just had a baby and I'm working. You're like, great, that's brilliant. You can see the upside while you're doing it. You can understand how you're going to put things in place to do the juggle. And cumulatively, this is going to be a relatively short time with a great payoff. Brilliant. But then chronic stretch, which I define as where you are overextended for too long, really does break people. But often people aren't willing to admit that they're broken. And we talked a bit about it, but these economic pressures, I think, amplify that risk a lot. And so I think it's getting ahead of that, diagnosing if it's acute or if it's chronic, and then putting in place the support infrastructure that you need early, which is really important. In terms of solutions, I'm not necessarily a master of
Well, I was
solutions.
going to say, can you give us an example of how? Because my next question was going to be around acute and chronic stretch, because that really resonated with me. And we've spoken about this before.
Yeah.
Like, do you have an example, maybe not perfect, but from your life that you have been able to design your work or your life around it?
I I have tried. I guess the best example is post the promotion process to director at Amazon, which is very intense. It is probably more chronic than acute. Takes anywhere between 6 months and a year and a half, depending on who you are and how you operate and what the broader context is. And that chronic period put a huge amount of pressure on me and my family. I'd had a kid 6 months before I got into that role, and so I was doing night shifts of looking after a small baby and then going into work with vomit down the back of my top. It was very glamorous. And the reflections that I made afterwards were something needs to change because my body is tired. And when my body is tired, it makes it very hard for me to be an effective leader. And if I'm not an effective leader, I'm letting my team down and making their lives harder. And what I bring home then is someone who is shouty and has a very short fuse and has low resilience. I tried a whole lot of things, and I applied the acute pressure playbook to a chronic problem, which works to a degree. So I made sure that I had the right support infrastructure in place. I have the world's most amazing nanny, and we need him in our lives. And that is an investment that we make because it helps with the pressure and it ensures that our kids have got stability at a time when we're trying to do the juggle between big jobs and making sure we have this adventurous whole family. I also made sure that I was exercising, but it also comes at the cost of seeing children or energy in some ways, gives and it takes. And also, if you're trying to sit on conference calls, exercising and conference calls don't go together very well. I bought a treadmill and I tried that. It didn't work. And so I applied the acute frameworks and they got me only so far. And it really showed up in my health. I landed up taking a sabbatical and I got pneumonia. I'm someone who has had more COVID in my body than most people. I've had it 4 times. And I think it's more indicative of really low threshold for battling things in addition to battling
Hmm.
what I was doing in life. And you take the learnings from it. And so for me, my chronic playbook was this is not sustainable into the future as it currently is. And I did a reset that was based on really understanding what my values are, who I am as a person and what is meaningful to me and how I want to operate. Then thinking about long-term goals professionally and for my family and what that meant. And then working in from that a so what of well, what needs to change. And the difficult outcome was actually Amazon needed to change. And Amazon doesn't change. And that's a good thing. You don't operate a really large business by changing for every
Hmm.
individual who works there. But I think that for me to step away and to reinvent myself in a new space with taking some time to recharge, restructure, rebuild has been very healthy. And it gives me confidence that I now have the baseline foundation to go again, to do something else that is going to be very intense. I start Antler Residency, which is a early stage accelerator program I'm probably selling that really badly for them. Sorry, Antler. But I start their fall program in October. It's a full-time, really intensive program that's designed to help early stage tech entrepreneurs to build their businesses really quickly, validate what they're trying to do and their customer problem, think through the solution, find the right network and co-founders, and move fast. I suspect it's going to be very similar to the environment that I've just stepped away from. But what I know is that I have taken the time to breathe, reimagine what my life infrastructure looks like, invest time in the things that maybe I had sold short for a few years, including my kids and my health. And we will see what the outcome is.
And this feeds in really well with when you talk about, it taking a risk without protection is reckless. And is this one of those examples? Because it seems like, because I always say this to ex-Amazon leaders that I interview, usually a lot of them are directors. And I just say leaving such a big job, like I think until you're in Amazon, you don't understand what it is to be a director at Amazon, right? So was this one of those examples for you in your life where you found a way to protect yourself, whether it be financially or career-wise, before then you just said no to, you left or, to move on?
Yeah. So I think that I didn't just leave. I think when I wrote a bit about risk versus protection, it was reflecting on maybe where I'd been about 2 years ago, where you're so in the motions, you just do the doing and you forget about the long game. And in doing the doing and being focused on the now, your prioritization tends to be on urgency rather than importance. And as a result of that, you don't necessarily step back and say, where else do I need to invest my time because I'm going to need that support infrastructure in the future? The one piece that doing the doing at Amazon does generate is some financial stability. And so, yes, I did have that as a safety net. But I think for me, a lot of it is more practical than that. It's who are the people who are going to show up for you and pick you up off the floor when you've had a really, really tough run of 6 weeks and you are exhausted? Who else could you call in to give you a hand and help you practically? Usually that's with childcare, but in a way that doesn't demand more attention of their own. And I have a huge shout out to my mum and my mother-in-law for this. They are amazing individuals who understand more about what I'm trying to do and balance than most people. And they are incredibly good at arriving and helping without question, getting on with it.
And these are like the lifeboats that you refer to
exactly.
A lot, right?
These people who provide gentle, consistent support. Our approach to family parenting is if you have the kids, your rules apply. And what we've tried to do is condition the kids to not ask for too much, as in that they really understand what their boundaries are so that they don't push them with other individuals who are being so kind and generous with their time to look after our children. It seems to work. I think as my kids grow up, they'll discover all new ways to extract value from their grandparents and other helpers. But for now, that model has really worked. Kind of mutual trust, but also mutual investment. We spend the time with these people who we love, and then they've also been hugely supportive. So yeah, I think what I did is I spent a year and a half realizing I had very few lifeboats because I had extracted as much value as I could from my personal life while investing in my professional life. And so I spent a lot of time rebuilding. I rebuilt friendships, which take time. And the joy of friendships is that the people value me for who I am as a person, not my title or my CV, which is a really interesting change and check for your identity. And what that does is it really brings balance and perspective and laughter to your life. And I really value that. And then, we talked a bit about practical support, which I'm a huge fan of. And I have and invest in a very large kind of spectrum of that. So my nanny, who we talked about, who really is an anchor for family logistics and amazing care for the kids. I have a coach, and the coach relationship has evolved. So it started being, someone who could really help me to understand who I am and what I need. And now it's someone who holds me accountable to the things that I have made commitments to around boundaries and goals and my values and how I show up. And I have a boot camp trainer. I go to an outdoor boot camp with 30 people once a week, more if I can manage it. And that investment in physical strength and exercise also gives me energy and resilience, but it's also the person who's doing it who matters to me, that she shows up in the way that she shows up, and that gives me the space to show up in a way that I'm proud of.
This takes me nicely, when we talk about lifeboats, it takes me nicely onto your venture, Spark, which you are which you're a founder of, which I think you almost pitch it as you're giving new founders their own lifeboats, essentially, when they want to start a business. What does that actually look like? Can you talk us a bit about through Spark?
Yeah. I am really excited about Spark, and it's still a journey and it's an evolving proposition. The scary thing about being at a point where you've built an MVP is that you get feedback constantly, and it's often a read of this isn't quite right. It's not quite the right fit. The great thing is what it does is it pushes you to think harder about the customer problem and really, really nail what the problem is, the jobs to be done, and who your first customer is. So what is that specific profile? And that's the stuff that I really love. So I'm getting to do a lot of what I really love. And I think if I'm honest, I don't think we've properly pinned it down yet. We're still in that exploratory phase with a few different avenues that we can go down. And these avenues include what does the solution look like? But then crucially, how do I monetize this? Who is that first customer who will help to provide social proof that will then enable me to scale? The design for Spark is around enabling better strategic thinking and sustained commercial success for businesses and the leaders of businesses. And we're starting off by doing this by thinking about how we create tools that combine data, coaching, and decision-making support into a personalized platform that supports confident, high-quality decision-making and credible communication. So that's a lot of but really what it is how do we help you to structure your thinking around a clear business problem you're solving, then what is that solution and who are you doing it for? But when you get to the point of implementation, the stuff that is really hard is staying motivated, focusing on the right things, maintaining your well-being, and really understanding the progress that your business is going through. So how do you know what KPIs to look at? What signals do you need to look at? And what do you do when you get that signal? And the joy of all of this is that a lot of what I did at Amazon, I think resonates irrespective of the size of the businesses that we work with. How do you think about the right mechanisms? How do you think about the right data? What is good data versus bad data? And also, how do you think about the infrastructure that you put around that? The structuring. A PRFAQ is a great example, right? You get loads of different versions of business plans, but really being clear on what it is you're trying to achieve with a customer lens, I think is very powerful. And so I'm trying to work out whether on the smaller scale of the spectrum in entrepreneurship space, there is room for using Amazon principles and breaking them down into something that really adds tangible value to founders.
And like the way that I've understood it when I was reading through and what you've been talking about now, it's almost like giving a new founder or someone who's thinking about starting a business not just a business plan, but all the elements like AI literacy, financial literacy, and then again, any other tools that we can pull, and it's all literally in their pocket.
Yes. The intent is that we apply AGI and proven business frameworks in a way that personalizes the support that we offer to founders and cuts through the noise. There are lots of other solutions out there, some of which are expensive, some of which are free. And there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of bluster. And my personal experience of this is that you can really get demoralized by how much more work it takes than what a LinkedIn influencer or an Instagram influencer is telling you it will take in order to be successful. You can try 5 different things and none of them pay off. And they take hours of your time because they are generic advice. It is not tailored to your business, your ambition, your level of understanding of a topic. And so this approach of constantly having to hack your way through things, while beneficial, I think takes more time than it needs to. We're trying to shorten the cycle between I've got an idea and getting to implementation, and then improve the level of sophistication that in terms of operation so that you are more likely to be commercially successful and sustainable in the long run.
And the 19th of September, you have a Spark Sprints coming up at London School of Economics. Can you walk me through what people can expect from that day?
Yeah, so super cool. We're doing it in real life, which I'm really excited about. And the reason is I want to meet customers and I want to see how we can deploy AI in a tangible way that isn't just on a screen. So it's an immersive experience that combines the power of proprietary AGI skills or AGI tools with experts. I'll be there, an ex-colleague of mine, ex-Amazon, ex-Deloitte, he does amazing work on supporting startups to grow, is also facilitating with me. And the intent is that for anyone who has an idea for a business or even just an itch to start something, they don't even have to have an idea. We can help with that. But you've kept it in your head for too long. We're going to help unlock the structure and strategy for building that out so that within a day, what you get is real clarity on who your paying customer is going to be, how do you get better product market fit, what are the real costs and opportunities of building this business. And so you come out at the end, you've got a robust financial plan, money in, money out. You've got a clear go-to-market strategy, and you've got an action plan of what are you going to do next. And what you get for the following 3 months is an AI tool that is personalized to your business. And so you can ask it anything. It becomes a co-founder for you so that you're not isolated. And it leverages all of this wealth of LLM data. It leverages a bunch of benchmarks we're populating it with, and all the information you fed it about who you are as a founder or an entrepreneur or someone who wants to start a side hustle, along with the information about your customers to become a really powerful tool and support. So it's built for side hustlers, career pivoters, graduates, anyone who wants to step out of their corporate grind and build on their own terms. And it's September 19th, which is a Friday, at the London School of Economics. And you can find out more at Spark Coach, SPARK Coach.io to book a spot.
And we will post all the links when we release this episode as well.
Brilliant. Thanks.
So very, very excited to see how that goes. So for someone listening who is saying, who wants to start a business, or, one day I'll start a business, what would you tell them?
I would ask them, I'd get them to ask themselves 2 questions. One is, what is my long-term goal? And that's broad, but it could be your personal goal or your professional goal. And I think it really comes down to, where do you want to be in 5 years? We talk at Amazon, talks a lot about working backwards. And I think that it is a very sensible framework for really understanding, where do I want to go before I work out where I am going next? Otherwise, you can wander around aimlessly in the wilderness. And I probably have a few times. And I think from there, really clarifying what your goal is, you can start to understand whether building an idea in some guise is the right thing to do now or ever. And then you can also work out how you're going to do it. I think we're in this world where AGI has made it a lot easier for you to side hustle, to move fast, to not invest all of your time and money in building a business. And actually, it gives you more flexibility and scope to do things alongside your existing role. There are some amazing statistics about how many side hustles have grown since 2022. It seems to be a post-COVID thing, but the world of side hustle is alive and well. Okay. And I think that people are proving that you can balance both. As a previous leader in a business, I question how, but I'd like to think that it is possible. There is plenty of time in the day. And so I think that there's a piece around why, and then why now or why not now, that you need to answer.
I think a lot of it is why not now, right? When people think about, oh, should I do it? I think it's that ambiguity that really gets to people. But what will that look like? And again, it's one of those things we said earlier, that unless you're in the thick of it, you won't know until you do it. And then, like when we say at Amazon, right, fail fast. And to Spark, very, very excited to see how that turns out. And I hope, it's first of many. But that's not the only thing, of course, that you're building at the moment. And I was very interested when I was doing the research for the episode. I came across Stealth AI. So in my absolute ignorance, I was like, oh, is that a company? Like, what is that? And I'm looking for it. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So then I didn't want to ping you. So I went back to AI and I'm like, what the hell does this mean? And they were like, oh, it's a AGI, but it intentionally stays under the radar and stuff. So can you tell me a little bit about Stealth AI? And can you tell me what you can tell me about it?
So it is a catch-all LinkedIn provided term for when you start to build a business and you're trying to keep it quiet for various reasons. Spark is in fact the first externalization of this. I just haven't moved on to putting it on my LinkedIn. And there were a few reasons for that. The practical reason was I hadn't registered a company yet. And so I thought, actually, I'd like to be legit before I do it. And I'd like to have a bit of control over how we express ourselves. So we now have a registered company. We've got a website and a way of articulating what this current state of being looks like. I'm sure it will evolve over time. The other benefit of Stealth AI is how you benefit from what LinkedIn does. So I am not yet at the stage where I'm raising funding, but I'm bootstrapping at the moment, but I need friends. And those friends often look like people within the VC community. And the benefit of using a Stealth AI label is that they come to you. So it's been a really great way to engage with a new network that I didn't have easy access to, and to start building those conversations with a new set of players and partners. So my understanding is that people use the LinkedIn algorithm and the Stealth AI button in order to do their own kind of pipeline sourcing for opportunities in VC. And I've had the benefit of getting found through that. So in a weird way, it's a go-to-market channel for the business.
What would you say, now being in this space, for the last year or so, what excites you the most about AGI right now? As you're going through the emotion, like you're thick in it at the moment, right?
I think that AGI is really transforming how we work and learn and build businesses. And it is democratizing access to new industries and new ways of operating that previously would have required a huge amount of capital investment, but also time investment. You'd have to become a whole new person in order to build a product or a business, right? And I don't think that it has removed the need for specialists. I think there's a huge opportunity for it. But as a very passionate generalist, I think that the time is now to be able to do a whole lot more faster and more powerfully than before. So I think it's unlocked speed, access, and opportunity to anyone who's bold enough to build something or to offer something, whether it's a service or a product or content. I think it means that we can solve problems and build innovative products and personalized services and meet the needs of customers more effectively than we ever could before. And you can do that almost independently. I'm not independent. I have a team who are helping me to build because I like leverage and I do need help and I want to move fast. But I think that there are lots of different models that you can use. And so, when I observe what's going on and how AI is transforming the landscape within entrepreneurship, but also broader kind of commercial operations, I see a few different themes. The first is, I think, supercharged speed. So AI is radically increasing the pace at which we can work and learn and build. I see leaner operations, this idea of an individual being able to build a business very successfully. So founders and businesses can do more with less, which we know, given the current macro conditions, is really important. And so you can really unlock 80-20 efficiency with the right tools. I think scalable impact is much more of an opportunity. So AI lowering the barrier to entry, making it easier to test, launch, and grow ventures at speed. And a lot of these within the tech space, but I think they can also be enablers of very tangible products as well, right, within the retail space, which is maybe more of my kind of wheelhouse. But I also think, though, that the flip side of this is that AI reduces friction, but it also increases the pressure for context shifting and cognitive load. Because you can move so much faster, because you can assimilate or kind of condense information and do research so much faster, there's just more to assimilate. And what that does to your brain is petrifying. And so I think that as we are working with AI, as we're encouraging our teams to work with AI, we need to be really empathetic about the impact that it has on the way that they think and what they are coping with. We need to design systems and cultures that protect their focus, their well-being, and their judgment. And I think when I started Spark, the initial thesis was that I wanted to help teenagers to build their own businesses and build independence and autonomous income streams, because I worry about the future of work and what opportunities will be there for them in time. There were a few reasons why we discarded that customer base as our first market, but I spent a lot of time in schools coaching innovation, business skills, and the use of technology safely. Kids are all using ChatGPT, but the majority of them are using it badly. They are very naive in the prompts that they're using it for. It's mainly for cribbing their coursework. They're pretty open about that. And the sadness for me is that it is really diluting the opportunities for them to develop critical reasoning skills. And I think I see the same thing probably happening within a grown-up sense. We are relying on this tool, and it is a very powerful one. But unless we apply our own critical reasoning as a lens, both in terms of how we interact with it and the information that comes out and what we do next, I think that there may be a real challenge on cognition and how we cope and build resilience around that, which is a new muscle for all of us. And I'm not yet sure that we know how to strengthen it.
Absolutely, I agree. And I think one of the things I feel like our generation was one of the lucky ones, that we were like pre-internet boom, pre-AI, pre all of this. So we got that opportunity when we went through the motions of school, university and college, to now. And I'm guilty of that. I try to have AI free time now during my day where I don't use AI and I just try to
Yeah.
remember how to write an email and, how to write a doc without, running it through different AI tools. But I mean, this was going to be my next question to you in terms of risks, but, you explained that very well. What would you see your kind of position, like what kind of impact would you want your work within the AI space to have when you think long term?
So I think from a business perspective, I want the work to specifically the industry and context that I'm focused on. It's about how AGI can be used to democratize entrepreneurship and access to knowledge, making it possible for anyone, anywhere to turn an idea into a business. And I think the real reason for this is not to do with the business building and the income stream itself. It's to do with the choices and opportunities that income stream and knowledge offers. Agency and equality and future sustained growth for families, for individual earners, and for a broader ecosystem. And a lot of this is informed by, I guess, growing up in South Africa, where the macroeconomic conditions look very different. Unemployment is really high. The education system is still quite fragmented and fractured and in need of a lot of new investment. And so I think that AGI as a learning tool, and I know lots of people are playing in this space, but as a learning tool within developing economies as well as developed economies, could be very powerful if it's applied in a safe way. And if there's a way that we can ensure that there is an equal application of it and equal access to it for everyone who has the interest in it.
Amazing. Well, it all sounds really exciting, and I'm very excited to see what happens with Stealth AI and when it becomes, something that we can talk about and it gets updated on LinkedIn. Excited to see how that goes. Yeah. Well, so we've gone to the end of the interview questions. Now we're going to go into a very fun quick fire round. So it'll be a series of 10 questions. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep. Go.
Right. Coffee order of choice on a busy morning.
Flat white.
Or normal milk?
Normal milk. Controversial these days.
I know.
I think I get a raised eyebrow every time I order one now. Where's the oat, Stacey? Where's the oat?
It's not like a flat white with oat milk, one shot with a bit of cream on top, no?
No. I think it comes from the fact my surname's so complicated. I don't need to complicate anything else for other people in my workday. This is how I'm being empathetic.
I got you. What's one parenting hack that actually works for you?
Wow. Run them. I spend a lot of time making sure that we are outside exercising as much as possible.
Especially with boys, right?
Exactly. And being willing to do that with them, I think, sets a really great example and also gets you further on the running them. So I get on my bike with them. I go to the gym and I give them some weights. They're tiny. But that shared exercise and making them use their bodies and build strength, but also what it does for their brains and their emotional regulation, I think is really powerful.
Go-to productivity tool or app that you'd recommend?
I love Perplexity for deep research. And at a time when I'm trying to navigate a new industry, it saves me so much heartache and time. So big fan, use it a lot.
One book you'd hand to every aspiring founder?
The Lean Startup is awesome. I love structured thinking and problem solving. The basis for a lot of what we're planning with Spark is built on frameworks like the Lean Startup, amongst others. We've got a combination of all of them within our approach. But I think just really encouraging people to think very deeply about their business from different angles and in a structured way, and to challenge their thinking and disconfirm their beliefs is really important. And I think Lean Startup is a really great framework for doing that.
What's your favorite way to switch off after a long day?
I do watch an awful lot of TV versus the me I'd like to be, but I think that physically sitting down, she says, sitting on her office chair, physically sitting down and having a total change of context is really important. Otherwise, the doing could just continue. And this holds for work doing and home doing. It's a really nice way of, being hostage to the couch, I think is useful for switching off.
Most underrated leadership skill, in your view?
Empathy. I think people talk a lot about it, but I don't sadly see it lived as consistently and prevalently as I'd like to see it lived. And I think particularly empathetic leadership is compromised at times of intense business performance pressure. And I like to think of it as not just a nice to have. I think it's a must have, but it does require conscious choices and investment. And that's not always easy.
If your boys described your job in one sentence, what would they say?
Well, it used to be mummy packs boxes into vans and in the Amazon days, because it's very hard to explain to a 4-year-old what leading fulfillment by Amazon looks like. And it is now this Antler residency I talked about, which I'm very excited about. Antler positions itself as a way to rapidly accelerate a business to scale. And in trying to explain to my kids what I'm going to be doing with the next 3 months of my time, I've packaged it as unicorn school, which has gone down really well. Although I don't know what they think of when they think of unicorn school. It might be different to the reality. But yeah, I think they now know mummy is the boss and she's going to unicorn school.
And then lastly, how would you want to be remembered as a leader?
I would like to be remembered as a wise person who made space for people to be the best of themselves.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stacey. That's the end of the interview. It was wonderful talking to you.
And you.